7 and welcome back to another Sims 4 Create a Sim D&D edition. You won't know this because I will edit it out, but like my brain froze hardcore there because I had my headphones still on, and a lot of times when I do voiceovers, I actually don't keep my headphones on, so hearing me talk for a voiceover and hearing my voice the way I did with headphones on was really weird to my brain. My brain just completely froze up there, but I'm gonna cut my freeze up out. Anyway, let's get back to the video. We have another Create a Sim. This is actually the 30th character out of like 37, so we are getting close to the end now. And the build that is being built alongside of this has a little bit ways to go, so this will end probably before the build does, unless I am thinking about adding like a few small Create a Sims mixed in between to be like alongside this one, like maybe doing some more of the adjective Sims or something like that, some really small ones, not any like big series, and maybe space these last few out. But I'm still deciding on that. I may have decided by the time this video gets out, but as of right now, with this voiceover, haven't decided. Anyway, let's talk about the character we have here right now. This is Arietta Glomore. So Arietta is one of my elves. She is actually a race that actually comes from my previous iteration of D&D, but me being the elf-loving fool that I am trying to create an elf for several different types of elves, and I am including ones from past iterations. Technically, I am in some ways creating some of my own, because I decided the Eldarin elf, which is like the seasonal elf, I'm not doing that. I'm doing an elf type for each season, so there is like a snow elf, and there's gonna be like a summer elf. I've actually come up with the names for them. Obviously, snow elf is staying snow elf, but for the summer, spring, and fall, or / autumn, I've come up with names with the help of my boyfriend for those elves, so there's gonna be one for each of the seasons, technically. I'm just gonna have whole bunches of elves, and I'm doing this purely because my boyfriend finds it slightly annoying that I like elves as much as I do. He likes the more beast-like creatures, like lizard folk, orcs, so on, so forth. So, yeah. Like, he's excited to see me draw a grung, because I do actually have a grung character that has been created. I won't go into too much details, but she deals with the circus. Anyway, so I am doing this just to be like, look, elves are great, I love elves, and I'm gonna create a whole bunch of them. Ha! In your face. So yeah, she is a Feyre, I think I'm saying that right, which is technically like an elf with demon ancestry, so very similar to a tiefling, but elf form. So yeah, so that is what they are. They normally always have like wings, and that is like their big main thing that they have similar to them. Like, they look mostly elf-ish, except for like the wings. I've seen some drawn with horns. Mine, as you probably could already been told, it's got the horns around it. Sadly, one of my favorite things that I drew for her is that her horns technically wrap around her ears, and her ears grew to go out through like the circle of the horns. Can't do that in Sims with the horns that I have and the elf ears that I have. But that was one of my favorite things when I drew her, was that her elf ears went through the horns. I love that. So, the thing with the Feyre, most of the drawings I've seen, they look to mainly mimic high elves with the tiefling twist to them. So that's more of the sort of feel that I was going for her, was sort of high elfish, but with this, dark twist. She definitely does fit the whole ancestry on the non-elven side. Arietta has quite the personality. She does have some of her strong suits, like some good suits. She's not totally bad. I'll get more into that later. But yeah, she's quite the person. Like, it's hard to be friends with her. But I mean, she does have friends, but it's not easy to be her friend. So, as far as her D&D stuff, she is a wizard, just purely a wizard, and her subclass is School of Necromancy, so, she's already dabbling in that side of magic that is like, ooh, bad and forbidden. In like mini games, necromancy is frowned upon. Skyrim is one that, or Elder Scrolls in general, necromancy, bad. What else is it? I feel like I've heard my boyfriend talk about Dragon Age not liking necromancy, or either they had two different versions of it and one was a bad version. I think in D&D there is technically a homebrew thing that someone made for necromancy to where it's not as bad, or maybe I'm still thinking about something he talked about with another game. I want to say Dragon Age definitely has necromancy, but I want to say that there's actually a version of it that's not considered quite as bad. I definitely am surprised that I haven't played the Dragon Age games the more I learn about them, but, yeah, so that's the thing. Anyway, she's definitely probably more along the bad side of necromancy, whether you want to argue there's a good or a bad side, if there is one, she's probably more on the darker side of it. That's how she rolls. Anyway, so yeah, that is her situation. She is 6 foot. She's pretty tall. I don't always mention that because I have like their height and their age, their orientation, like I have that stuff figured out. She's bi, if you want to know. I have several different types of all over the place characters. I have heights all over the place, ages all over the place. I do try for the most part for the ages to make sense for them to be late teens into young adulthood, like somewhere around in there. I don't have too many characters that are very young or very on the more elderly side. Lef is one of them that is on the elderly side. I don't think out of the characters that I created for this series, any of them are extremely young, but I do actually have a character that I've created since these ones that is actually really young, like she's meant to be a child, but that's part of the slightly terrifying part about her, is that she's as strong as she is, as young as she is, sort of situation. So yeah, but that is something else. Anyway, getting back on to Arietta here. So, as far as her sim version, she has the public enemy aspiration, because, yeah. And the traits I will be giving her is gloomy, evil, genius, loner, and adventurous. So I did, for the main 3, I gave her gloomy, evil, and genius. Part of me doesn't necessarily see her as evil per se, in all honesty, but 1, I rarely give Sims the actual evil trait, and 2, I definitely see her being slightly above mean. But here's the thing, I also see her as someone who's very specific where her mean or hatred is going towards. I don't think she would just go up to random people and be evil to them unless like she had a good reason, but once you've slightly made her annoyed or angry, then she's just gonna go full force on you. But yeah, that's part of the reason why I chose the evil, because she definitely is a little bit, like, she's definitely mean, don't get me wrong, and she can be quite evil when it comes to certain people. But again, it's partially because I don't use the evil trait much on any Sims, whether it's this series or my own personal play or on, like, I don't really make, even Sims that I make to put into the background of the worlds, like my Not So Berry world and my Female Gaming Legacy world, like, every once in a while I'm adding Sims in the background to those just to make sure that, 1, I've seen people play Legacy Challenge before, and sometimes the family trees, especially if you have MCC, like, marrying people off and having potential relationships, have babies and things like that, you start to get a lot of blending of families. So it's partially the try to avoid that as least as possible, try to make it not so bad, but also just give different options for the Sims that I'm currently, like the gen I'm currently playing, give them more options to potentially, date or something. I know that when it comes to it getting closer to Grey Gen, I'm going to add a lot of Sims that have the neat trait. Just so that there's more likely chance that I can run into a Sim with the neat trait. Hopefully. So yeah, so I don't tend to use the evil trait too often, so I was like, you know what, she's probably one of the better ones to use it on, so let me give it to her. I did give her gloomy, because I do think a part of her that will downplay slightly some of her evilness, but I do think at times she does have, like, this gloomy feel. Like, obviously her being a Feyre, she's treated differently than what a high elf would be treated, even though for the most part she has a very similar look to a high elf. She's just got these wings and these horns attached onto her, but because of that one part of her ancestry, she's treated quite a bit differently from the high elves. And typically high elves are treated the best out of the elves, or at least they act like they're the best out of the elves, so you know, to be treated the opposite of what you look like for the most part, a little sad, just because you got these extra things that the other ones don't, and you're treated like you're a complete outcast. So she does have a little bit of gloominess to her, but she's extremely, extremely smart. Like, this is one of my characters that I do imagine is actually very smart, which, not just because she's a wizard, it's just in general, I feel like I've always had this feeling about her that she's a very knowledge-based person. So I just gave her that for that reason. Loner, because for the most part, she would stick by herself. But she does like traveling, she does like adventuring. So, you know, she does go out and travel. So that is why I gave her the traits that I gave her. I do have her, even though I do give her the loner trait, I do actually have her in my head that she eventually runs into someone and she actually hangs out with them. She becomes best buddies with them. That character gets made a little bit later. And it is this one guy, he's one of the last Sims that actually show up. Oh no, he's not too far away. He's the 33rd one, so there's two people in between Arietta and him. But they're like the bestest of buds, and there's a part of me, see, this is the part of Arietta that I see that has slightly good qualities. She, I feel like, in some ways, would like him, and potentially could see herself trying to date him, but she doesn't want to, one, push that, because this is like a really good friend of hers. She doesn't make friends too often, so she doesn't want to potentially ruin it, but also, without going too much into this character, because I eventually will talk to him about him later, he has recently gone through a very, very bad breakup type of situation, so she's not going to step that bounds, and I think she slightly knows that he isn't fully over her, the last one, so she's not going to step that bounds, and this is her friend, and she's like the type of person that I can easily see her being friends with him, even if she's got like a slight thing for him. I can easily see her staying friends with him for the rest of her life, and if he ends up with someone else, she would be more than delighted to be the godmother of any children that potentially would happen. So that's the type of person she is. Like, yeah, she may have a crush on someone, but she also can respect boundaries of other people, even if she is evil. She's evil, but she knows boundaries. So, yeah, that is her story. You will actually get to see photos of her and her friend together in his video, so you will be seeing her again, technically, towards the end of his. I hope you like how she turned out. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I am actually really happy with her, and I've actually put her in the background of one of my worlds. Obviously, I took the horns and the wings off, toned it down just a little bit compared to what she looks like here, but she is in the background. I like her, like, facial bone features and stuff like that. I think she's a really pretty sim, and considering I don't have too many heavily tattooed female sims, I don't think about it sometimes. Like, I love tattoos. I want more myself. But for some reason when I create sims, half of the time I forget the tattoos are there. But I purposely have like markings and tattoos on the drawing version of her, so I definitely wanted to represent that on the sim version of her. And I love her tattoos. I like how she turned out. I think she's one of the ones, I still like my drawing better. I actually meant to mention in Raz's video, he is literally the only character where I'm actually more in love with the sim version of him than the drawing version. Because I love them. I'm pretty proud of, like, most of my characters drawing-wise. Like, I'm really happy with how they turned out. And obviously, I'm limited in Sims. Like, she's supposed to have jewelry that connects to the horns and goes up on the horns. Obviously, I can't do that unless the horns, I find CC horns that do that. And finding that probably would be extremely hard. Who knows, maybe I'm wrong. But I haven't seen any. So, yeah. I'm limited even with CC to try to get them as close to the drawing as possible. But hopefully they're still turning out pretty decently. I think I do think she is one of the ones closer to her drawing. Still like the drawing version slightly better, but I think she's actually pretty close to the drawing version. One of the few that is close. But, again, let me know what you think of her down in the comments below. Definitely make sure you check out the D&D build mansion playlist so that you can see how that build's going on over there. At this point, we are at the rooms, so the rooms for all these individual characters is what's being shown on the videos as of right now, which was my favorite part to do. I loved doing the rooms so much, the bedrooms. So definitely give that a check. It will be down in the description below, as well as the playlist for this series, so if there's any characters you missed, again, this is the 30th character out of 37, so definitely keep an eye out for the future ones. Feel free to go back and check any of them that you've missed, and I will be ending this video here, but hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Until then,